used to
And
be.
you know what they're
They
doing?
do that way they can save money on paper.
Yeah, and you know what they do with our law books, which of course we have to mark up?
Yeah?
They make it.
Okay, let's get
paper
started.
now, the marks.
It is 6 p.m. Monday, August the 23rd, 2021. Special meeting of Wilson County Court is now in session. If you would, join me for prayer. Heavenly Father, we bow our heads and thank you for allowing us to live in the greatest country in the nation where local governments can meet and make decisions that other places in the world would not be allowed to do. Bless everyone here for coming and keep them safe with you. This we ask in your holy name. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Okay, that was the easy part. Okay, agenda item number 2, Richard L. Jackson County Judge, Brenda Trevino County Auditor to A, budget hearing according to Local Government Code 111.007. You got something you'd like to?
Commissioners, I presented you with a copy of the proposed budget, which has been filed with our county clerk. It is a proposed balanced budget. And so I just welcome any questions or comments at this time.
Okay. And it says,
Do you want me to read this?
read the cover sheet, if you want to read the cover sheet, I was
This
going
budget
to
will
read
raise
it.
more revenue from property taxes than last year's budget by an amount of $534,743.33, which is a 3.4803% increase from last year's budget. The property tax revenue to be raised from new property added to the tax roll this year is $502,524.92.
Okay. I guess we got a list of people. I had something I was going to mention before we got to public comments. Okay, Wilson County is a unique county. We are not fortunate as some counties that are around us that have sales tax revenue. We are limited to one source of revenue, and that's ad valorem taxes. Two legislative sessions ago, our state legislature limited local municipalities and local county governments to 3.5% revenue increase from the revenue you raised the year before. Okay, for Wilson County, that is pretty much what we have. We have a few other revenue items, such as money from the district clerk, money from the county clerk, the JPs, the Expo Center, federal, the federal inmates, we have that too. All but one of those, the revenue went down from last year, so we had to make amends for that. We're struggling to keep within the 3.5% increase. If we go over the 3.5%, it is an automatic, what we used to call a rollback election. It's called voter approval election now. Before they passed this, it was 8%, and it was a petition that the citizens had to get up to get an election. Now it's not, it's automatic. It's going to be an election. So if we go over the 3.5, then it's an automatic election. And we try diligently to stay within that. Brenda has done an excellent job with the budget to keep it where it is right now and to do some of the things that we've done. With that being said, we're going to start with, and again, that's just why limited. We didn't choose this. There's not a county commissioner or a county judge in the state of Texas that wanted to be limited to 3.5% revenue increase from your ad valorem taxes. And like I said, that's our only source. We don't have the luxury of a sales tax or something else that we can work on somewhere else. And our other revenue's going south because of COVID. So, yes.
May I say, along with that, we're a growing county. And so as we get new subdivisions, we get new homes, things that raise the tax rate, we don't get new money because of that. Sheriff's office needs are expanded with population. Commissioners' needs, our areas are expanded also through that, but it's 3.5% max, no matter how much the county grows in population. A lot of folks think that all the new growth, gives us all this extra money, but it doesn't.
The growth, like you were saying, Commissioner Wiley, doesn't do us any good because we're limited to 3.5% above what we generated last year.
Yes.
So
We have to do more with less in some respects.
that's it. We have to do more with less. So I'm going to start. If anybody else, anything else, any commissioner? I'm going to start with our public comments. Sheriff Stewart.
I get to open this show?
You got your name's first on the
That's
list.
what I saw.
It wasn't, but we moved it to the top.
Goodness gracious.
Well, these are, what are they expensive?
Who's this?
I don't know.
Sheriff, and if you'll stand right here, I'm going to put the mic right here on Judge's desk.
Don't pick it up.
Just to make sure.
Please don't give him the mic.
Oh, and you have 3 minutes.
I got 3 minutes, starting now, but I better talk while I'm walking.
It hasn't started yet.
What I gave you there to start with is what my office has generated since January 1st. And if you look there, I gave you the 2020 totals. Calls reported in 2020 for the whole sheriff's office for the year, 8,475. Traffic stops, 1,890. Through August 11th of this year, we've got 7,091 calls and 1,756 traffic stops. On the next, and that's projected us to be somewhere in the total calls, probably somewhere in the neighborhood of 11,000 by December 31st. And I would look for having almost twice as many traffic stops, so you're looking at about 3,500 on that. The other item I gave you there was since January 1st, total number of investigations in my office. As you can see on the first line, 3 investigators, property crimes, sexual assaults, family violence, things like that. We're looking at 402 cases that they've been investigating since January. My 2 narcotics investigators are running, 197. So basically, we're running with 5 investigators, about 100 investigations apiece for this 7.5 months so far. To me, that's, for 7.5 months, my investigators are probably doing just fine, but they're not going to be able to keep that pace up and do the job they need to do, handling 100 cases apiece all year long. There's no way they're going to keep up. Also, with the calls for service, this last item I'm giving you is where I think my sheriff's office, personnel-wise, needs to be at this current time. I understand budget restrictions, I understand all of that stuff, but I think it's in the interest of me doing my job to make y'all aware of where I need to go, because I can't handle status quo. Right now, based on current manpower At any given time, when I'm maxed out, I have
He doesn't have any,
five officers in the whole county patrolling
He's on
all
temporary,
eight hundred and
zero.
something miles of road. I think we come up with 800 and something miles of road in this county, right?
Would you say again how many? Because I didn't hear you. Because
I have 5 when everything's perfect. But when you start looking at vacation, sick leave, training, court, I'm lucky to have 4. Most of the time, I'm running about 3. To maintain 5, I think I need 6 or 7. So I maintain at least 5 on each shift. And that's kind of what I have laid out here for right now. And based on our projected growth, 4 years from now, that number's gonna be low. So the only way I can, if we don't start now, I will be so far behind, we'll never catch up. Then if you look at your budget paperwork,
Okay, hang on, just, the time went off, but okay, this is budget hearing. We're gonna waive that, and we're gonna we'll allow everybody here, unless they just sit there and talk too long. But I know you've got something to present, so we're not gonna stop anybody from presenting what they have.
gotcha. But if you look at total on just personnel, well, actually total budget for my office, that includes sheriff's office and the jail. Knowing that this was an issue and money was a problem, when I sat down and drew up this budget, I basically maintained exactly the same total as 2021. The budget that you have in front of you, I did not increase 3% anywhere. I held my budget exactly where it is. In my mind, 3% of 6.5 million is about $195,000. That $195,000 would pay for 3 people's salaries. So I basically created 3 of those slots that I've showed you on there that I needed by working my own budget. What I'd like to see from y'all is there any way, looking at what I've given you, that you can find some place to give me 3 also? I found half of them. Can y'all find some way to give me the other half? Any questions?
I don't have a question. I mean, there's no doubt. Law enforcement is always needed, anywhere and any time, okay? The only thing about it is, if we do go over our 3.5%, it's automatically, there doesn't have to be a petition, it's automatically going to a vote. If the vote does not pass, then it goes back down to 3.5%, and we have to work with what we've got. That's just,
Can I mention the other item in the budget? We talked about it.
Yeah, you can, well, and I just want to clarify something also. So the sheriff mentioned the differences in what's been proposed versus what was budgeted for 2021. There is a $61,000 difference if you combine the 2 departments. As you know, every department is budgeted, and so when we do the proposed budget, it's budgeted by department. So I can't really look at it as combined when I'm giving it to him. But with that being said, if you do add the 2 totals, it's $61,861 less proposed than combined total for 2021. So you take that 61,000 less plus what he did not increase, and I guess that's where he's saying, technically, we do have the money. If you were to, we would have to do some moving around, because the money that he's referring to that is available is on the jail budget, not in the sheriff's department budget. And I just want to clarify that, because the sheriff's department budget is exhausted. It's the jail side where it comes in under budget. So we would basically, if the court approved, we would move budgeted unexpensed money from the jail side over to the sheriff's side to do what the sheriff is asking for the 3 positions that he's requesting, and then he's requesting the court to find additional funds for the other 3 positions. Correct me if I'm wrong, Sheriff, but I think that's what we discussed.
That's what we discussed.
okay, will the jail still function efficiently?
Yes. Yes, because we have been running, the jail was budgeted at six officers per shift. We ain't been able to keep 6 officers on a shift since I've been here. Come find out, we haven't kept 6 officers on a shift in forever. By backing it off to 5, technically by rule, we could actually work with 4, but 5 would give me 1 extra. Backing it off to 5 created the positions, plus it allowed me to give the people in the corrections officers a boost in salary without affecting my budget, because I used the unused salary from the other positions and still made it. So I actually made that work, and the jail, as jail administrator, we sat down and talked about it at length to make sure I didn't. And even if we went to full capacity for whatever reason at the jail, 5 officers would still more than meet the standards that the jail commission requires. And I might be able to keep the 5 positions full if I can get them more money.
So we're looking at, there's $160,000 on the jail side that's budgeted less than what was budgeted in fiscal '21. So I believe what the sheriff is asking is if we can move that money over to the sheriff's side so that he has,
And how many officers will that fund?
I'm assuming
Right
3.
at 3. And it depends on how you want to look at this, because if you look at just salaries on the budget, or you look at total budget, I was looking at total budget, because I do know those positions also come with insurance, other equipment, other stuff like that. So it's more than just salaries. I do understand that, but I think it would fund the 3.
I do want to mention, though, because I've presented a balanced budget, that $160,000 has already been dispersed in other departments, other line items, other areas. So if you are going to want to change it, then somewhere else, we're going to have to cut $160,000 to add it back into the sheriff's side.
So, let me get this, it was already cut and put somewhere else, other than the sheriff's budget?
Correct, because that is what he requested when he requested to do his salary changes and eliminate the 4 jailer positions. It freed up that money, but he didn't have anywhere at the time to keep it into his budget.
Okay,
So where did it go?
Well, you've got 57 pages of a budget. It's spread. We do have a contingency line item that we have $233,000 in non-departmental. So what happens is, as I'm completing every department budget based on need at the time that this was created, any excess then goes into the reserve for unexpected expenses, which is what the court uses when you have situations like that came up in court this morning.
so we could find that money somewhere,
You could pull it from the reserve. It would just lessen the reserve amount in the non-departmental.
okay, but
And we have 233.
that's
so you
gonna
take
limit
the
us
160.
in non-departmental next year, and that's what keeps all of our buildings and all of our stuff going.
No, sir, that's just in that one particular line item, the reserve for the contingency line item. Everything else has already been budgeted. We've got $233,000 budgeted in one line item for contingency for reserve for unexpected expenses.
Okay. As far as I'm concerned, if it's gonna keep everything the same, if we can,
It would just,
robbing Peter to pay Paul, take it
that's-
and put it back.
correct. So if you were to look at page 5, and it's right in the middle of the page, it's line item 4615. That's where you see your reserve for unexpected expenses. And you see 233,910. Basically, what we would do is we would take the 160 off from there and add it to, basically, what he's requesting is to add it to the sheriff's budget, not to the jail budget. So you're kind of talking about 2 different things.
I'm good with that.
And I will tell you that, we had a reserve line item for this fiscal year, and you can see that we've, as of this date, we've only expended $15,000 on a budget of $239,000. That's not including what was approved in court this morning, but it is there, for the purpose of unexpected expenses, so.
And how much again will be coming out of that?
I don't have the exact amount until, because
Okay.
I didn't know, the sheriff and I didn't get an opportunity to get down to the details on the dollars, but I figured it's $160,000 is the difference, plus the 60 that he still has left. So I'd have to recalculate the number.
Okay.
To not change the overall budget and avoid the election, an automatic election, it would have to be pulled from the reserve
Okay.
or increase revenue in other areas.
Y'all have any comments or questions?
No, I'd like to just see the analysis before we do that, and then, but I guess basically what you're saying is then, without cutting $160,000 from, additional from somewhere else, then we couldn't fund the other three.
Well, that,
Is it,
without an election, that is correct.
maybe, I mean, we can see what we can do with this and figure it out.
To fund the three,
Yeah, I think that's all we can do, Sheriff, this year, right now.
Well, particularly since he cut it out of his budget. Which I assume was some sort of oversight or maybe an effort to save the county some money.
That don't include vehicles or insurance, right?
it does not include vehicles and insurance, no. So I don't know that.
That's going to be another
We won't-
expense.
Those three positions won't need a vehicle because I got enough in service that I can hold. So I don't have to replace vehicles for those three positions. Don't anticipate that at all. But the only thing that may, to your question, is like I said, that is salary only, and you've got benefits that go along with it that may change the numbers a little bit.
Yeah, so I would feel more comfortable if I was able to give the court exact numbers, because there's a lot more than just a $52,000 salary. I mean, it's $8,700 for health insurance, plus 11.34% of the salary for retirement, plus workers' comp, unemployment. So there's a lot more than just the salary, so I'd have to give you actual numbers.
I don't think we're gonna make it to the three without depleting, actually going over that 233.
Yeah.
You think we'll go over the 233?
Yep.
When you add all the-
With loaded, you will.
So I just recommend that there's no action, but because we have until September 13th, so I can go back and look at the numbers, and then we can discuss it if we have to call a report or whatever, but we can discuss it on September 13th and let them know at that point.
It might have to be 2 positions instead of 3. But I think 3 would be
Yeah, I
better.
think two loaded's gonna put
That's
you
it.
close to
I
that.
think the question would be to ask the sheriff is if, because he's requesting 3 new investigator positions at $52,000 each in salary, and 4 new patrol deputies at $45,000. So if we're not going to fund all 6, then what does he want us to look at?
I guess what it amounts to with me then is you're gonna have to tell me what I can do, and then I'll have to look, because, while patrol's my mainstay and the county's mainstay, I can't back up investigations either, so it just, when you tell me total number of people, then I'll just have to get a real serious look at where they'd be most effective.
Well, I really don't want to deplete that line item, but if we could work with an investigator or 2 investigators, 1 patrol or whatever.
And like I said,
Work
if
with-
he
work
knocks
with
me
that back
with
and
2,
forth.
I'd probably just have to stay with 2 investigators, because but I hate to do that to patrol because we do need more people out there, but, the investigations is a very important part of this, follow-up. Because you gotta get these people caught and off the street.
Yes, sir.
I'm good if we stay within that 233,910.
But we need some kind of dollar amount there.
Yeah.
What kind of,
You're gonna have to figure that.
yeah.
And once you figure out what you're gonna do with investigators or patrol or whatever, then you can figure out what.
How much do we need to leave in that fund?
It's, last year was the first, well, since I've been here, it's the first year that, that we added it,
We spent 15,000 out of it this.
as of August 16th, yes.
We're gonna, some more is coming out of it between now and the end of the budget year.
There's stuff that's been allocated to it. If you remember, a couple of months ago, the court approved the $40,000 from that line item for the sheriff's department for outfitting of the vehicles, but that hasn't happened yet because the vehicles haven't arrived yet. So I asked, the sheriff did budget for it for the new fiscal year. So that's also money that's not being, I don't think it's going to be spent this year if he doesn't get them outfitted by September 30th, but,
And I'm not sure that I'm gonna get.
Yeah.
If I get one outfitted, I won't get all three outfitted.
right.
That was 45,000, wasn't
I
it?
think it was 45,
48. It was
48,000.
16 a vehicle, I believe.
But that just gives you an idea, Commissioner, yeah, that's what we use that line item for things like that. So there's not really an answer to how much we put in there. It's just basically what's left over after we meet the needs of each department without going over the 3.5%.
So we've already got some committed out of that 233 that's left.
No,
No?
no. Starts over.
Well, there was, okay, what we did today about the construction over at the.
Yes, in the current budget, that is correct.
Yes.
Not in the new.
current budget.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay,
I do want to, the sheriff, I don't know, did you want to mention the other position changes that you are requesting on the admin side?
Oh, yes. On the admin side, basically, I did a little readjustment, where my admin, secretary, admin person in the office, I created, or I want to create a, office supervisor. Basically, Nita Harrell would be in that position. She would assume supervision of all of the other admin staff and overall control of the technical side of dispatch she still hold. As far as our DPS, CGIS, all that stuff, she still would oversee that and oversee all of the other admin people that up to this point had been basically answering to the jail commander. But it's kind of hard for her to watch what's going on up front when she's out back behind locked doors every day. So I created this position, and then I would I created that position for her, and I would still replace her in dispatch with a day-to-day supervisor that just oversees daily running of dispatch.
how much would that,
By doing that, what I
Salary be?
did is I took the other admin salary, I'm gonna boost, I talked to Brenda about this earlier. I'll take Nita's salary and go to my supervisor's salary, sergeant's salary at 52,000, which is, I think, $3,500 to $3,500 more. And then the dispatch supervisor, where Nita was making almost 49, I'm gonna bring that in at 40. It'll be a raise to anybody in the office that gets that position, but they will be a supervisor. And the unused salary from my other admin that was in there will more than that change. So I'm not adding any
okay,
dollar amount. Actually, I'll be subtracting some. I'll be making a little bit more of that 61,000, I think.
okay.
So there's not he's not requesting an added position, just for
Yes, I'm just
clarification. He's just
revamping.
modifying an existing position and upgrading it basically from an administrative assistant to an office manager at a higher salary and reducing the dispatch supervisor at a lower salary.
Okay, so that'll work out. As far as this, I guess, when you make the changes and we vote on the budget, then we can vote on it then. We don't necessarily, we have to make any, just so,
No.
this is just something that Commissioners Court agrees on. We'll all agree, we'll all agree again when we come to the budget, okay? Thank you, Sheriff Stewart. Okay, next on our list is Nikki Storr, our librarian.
Please bear with me, I've never asked for money for the library before, so bear with me.
That's okay.
I gave everybody a legal size sheet of paper. In the archives, if you're familiar with the building, we kind of consider half of the building to be for the society, and the other half to be where our archives are, where we store everything. So we would like permission to take down a few walls, and this is where I need guidance. I've never had to remodel the library. It's always been architecture comes in and tells me what they're doing. But I haven't gone out for bids because I didn't know. This is also something that we could do in-house if we had somebody who liked to take down walls. I do not believe they are support walls from looking at the old floor plans of when it was the library. So can you give me some guidance on how I should?
Okay, I'm like you, I don't know if they're support walls or not, I haven't seen, I've been through there, and most of the time when I'm walking through there, by the time I get all the way around, I'm lost.
Well, we're hoping to open up what we call the box room. The box room is where families have given us artifacts that they want to keep for the future. So last summer, we went through and did a digital collection. So we took photographs of everything, and they're sitting in bankers' boxes. And to me, it's a waste of space because they're old bookshelves from the old library, so they're wooden. They're bowing because of the weight, and they just completely line the walls. But if you do it library style by taking out some of the room dividers, we can actually come out from the wall with double-sided bookshelves. And those we have in abundance, thanks to Nikki Myrick. She drove up to College Station and came back with 3 truckloads of metal shelving because College Station, when they built their new building, it was directed that they could not put anything of old back in the building, and the shelves are only a year old. So. we
Okay,
come
here's,
down here.
here's something on the walls, like right now, especially if you don't have any kind of idea what it might cost, is we're restructuring our maintenance department, and we may be able to, if we can find out what all it's gonna involve, be able to do that in-house.
Does the county own that building?
Yes.
So just for reference, we do budget for, we have $125,000 proposed budget for building repairs and maintenance. I don't know if it's even remotely close, what we're talking, if we're talking $5,000 or 10, whatever, but we do have money budgeted in building maintenance, if that is something
It would be a
depending on
lot
the
more
cost.
affordable, because I know Kevin took down a wall, where's old guy, saw her come in here a while ago, down at Elections. And finished it out. What's that?
I was wondering if the interior walls were cinder block, but they're not.
Before we do anything, we'll get somebody in there to look at it and to be sure that nothing's load-bearing. If there's something load-bearing, we're gonna have to leave it.
To my knowledge, they're not, because I know that they added, when it was the first library, I know they added where the front desk is at, that used to be the garage for the bookmobiles. So that's all outside, but inside, I do not think, what we're looking
we get a proposal after the budget has been approved into the new fiscal year, and then she can come back to the court with a proposal, and you can decide.
Right. One of the things you will have to do is you'll have to get an asbestos inspection on the sheetrock that's existing. That's not an awful lot of money.
We could also, since I didn't know what I needed to do, just please keep in mind for fiscal year of 2023, that we could wait until then. As long as I could get all my ducks in a row, I would be happy.
Okay,
We can certainly help you work through that process. That's not a problem.
Sandy has written on here, I guess. Sandy wants to take out the walls with the X's. Okay, and the walls with the zeros is an optional wall?
Could be, and we'd like to take it down, that would give us a little bit more, because what I really wanted was where it says Maureen's office, that wall there to go to. Maureen no longer uses it, told me that we could do that, if we could do those inside walls, I would leave that outside wall.
Okay, let's, like I said, we'll,
I guess.
see what,
Yeah, we really need to, y'all need to decide what it is you really want to do. We can help you work through that process, and then we'll figure out how it gets paid for.
Point in the right directions, and I'll ask the questions.
Yes,
The
ma'am.
other sheet that I gave you that was stapled to this one is, every year I put together what's called fact sheet. I usually do it in October, but I convinced myself that you might like to see what's going on as of August. So this is everything up to date. The right-handed column where it says significant statistics, these are the ones that I will be reporting to the state library. That every year we do the annual report, and from that report, the state decides if we meet these bottom items. It says criteria for accreditation, and on that is what the state bases our desires to provide in the E-rate grant, where we get a subsidy from the FCC. We get about $12,000 for the Floresville Library's internet service. We are also in on the interlibrary loan grants. They give us $8.17 for every book we lend out to other libraries. They don't give us anything for our people asking. So last year, 211 items was loaned out to other libraries in the state of Texas. Our patrons asked for 536 items we did not own, and that goes out nationwide. I made the mistake and asked for a Roald Dahl cookbook. It came from the Smithsonian, so it does go nationwide. It's just not within Texas. So I thought you'd find it interesting to see the totals that we have. I've also included the Lone Star Digital Library. Those are the downloadable items, and that's gone up quite a bit because of COVID and last year. We participate with 26 other libraries as a consortium, and we pool our monies together because the book business, book publishers have learned you have a certain number of checkouts before you have to rebuy it, or a length of time before you have to rebuy the electronic books. It's not like a regular library. You go to Walden Books, buy a book, and put it on your shelf. So I thought you'd like to see that there are 17,000 books that you can download, and all of this can be done with what's called a Libby app on your phone. So if you're traveling and you need a book to read, you can pick up your Libby's app, and within minutes, you can have a book from our library.
okay, I don't want to cut you off, but has this got something to do with your budget?
No,
Oh.
I wanted to let you know how well we're doing.
Thank you.
Okay.
I want to mention about the 2 additional degrees, so that in preparation for that, because you're requesting not to do this.
Again, something not to do this year, because the state assigns us a population service, which they're saying is our county. The state library is saying that Wilson County has 51,070 people. And because we're over a 50,000 threshold, it's thrown us into an upper category. In that category, you must have a library director who works 40 hours a week, which is me, and this funny little three-letter word called "and." It says, "and 2 additional degree full-time equivalent librarians." We fall short with that because after talking to the state library, I cannot consider myself that. I can consider myself either the director or I can be an employee. I can't be both. We already have one other person who has that higher degree. It's a 1-year higher degree from an accredited American Library Association college. So next year, we'll have to talk about hiring another advanced degree person.
I asked Nikki, when she brought this to me last week, I was concerned because we will have the same annual report in June of next year. And I just wanted to confirm that we were not going to get fined or cited or anything for not complying. Nikki has stated that she does not believe that that would be the case, and she is willing to wait for us for 2023 in the next budget to do so, and just making sure the court's aware of that.
Is a person, you have a full-time person right now? or-
Do you have somebody like we did the other day that may get accredited?
No, I do not believe any of the other staff have beyond a high school diploma. You have to have that 5th year of after you have to have a master's of library science, is basically what they're saying. And according to our population, you have to have 2.
Let them know.
I'm sorry?
Let them know. Make sure they,
And what was the risk for not complying? It was something about not being able to.
You could be put on probation, and that would be 3 years in order for you to get that accreditation back. But being on probation, that would probably limit us to the grants we could go out for, the FCC subsidy for E-rate, so we have to pay the full price of the internet, and we wouldn't get the interlibrary loan reimbursement program.
And we're sure that we're not going to be affected by that, by not complying this year.
Correct.
Okay, that's all I want to make sure.
To my knowledge, we are not, because it's all on how we answer that annual report.
Okay.
Okay, well, we got a year to work on that, but we will, when you get us some information, and we'll get maintenance to go out and look at that and see what is going to be involved into getting that done, where we can try to do it in-house.
That's what I was
Thank you. Okay. Next in line, Eva S. Martinez. Start the clock, go.
Standing in there and moving around. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioners Court, for allowing me to speak today. As you know, I serve as your county clerk, and I have a wonderful staff, and I'm sure that everybody else thinks that their staff is wonderful. And I am not in any way comparing my office to anybody else's. Our office is a unique office. We are a records keeper for the county. Each one of the staff that I have in the office specializes in something, and then they're also cross-trained. Each one of them is worthy of where they sit. They have wonderful customer service, but a lot of people have the impression that that's all they do, is they wait on a customer, and they don't. If you will look at what I have done as the salary chart, and I am addressing the salaries of the people that work in my office. When I met with the folks, and I'm talking about meeting with the auditor, she told me that they only give a cost of living 3%, and that they're trying to bring in the bottom salaries or the entry-level salaries to a fair place where these people will make a 3 years, and I see nothing wrong with it. But what has happened is the rest of the folks that work have not been addressed. And these people are sent to school to learn, to do the jobs that they do. I do in-house training for almost everything that I learn, I pass on to them. I have gone through there and not set a salary, but told you what their hourly salary is. And what I believe is a fair salary that they should be compensated. If you come to my office, and I wish that everybody could just come in and sit next to one of them, they are busy all the time. Every time you come in, they are busy working on a project, or they're answering the telephone, or they're getting out a project. I'm the kind of person that believes in customer service. So if you need something, and my girls have it ready at noon, they will tell you that I deliver it to folks, either by email, go drop it off, or go take it on my lunch hour. I spend many lunch hours making sure that the folks get the service that they deserve. I think that the people that work for me deserve these salaries. And I want you to really look deep into your hearts, but deeper into your pockets, to see if there is any way to compensate these folks for what they are worthy of. I thank you for your time and consideration, and I have the utmost respect for all of you. Thank you.
Okay, we have a 3% for straight across the board,
That is
except for
correct.
the lower end of the clerks, and I think 2 of these fall within that.
Yes, so I proposed a base minimum or base minimum annual salary of $30,000, where we are at 27.5, I believe, right now. 27 even right now. And so that would increase the bottom, lower anybody who's under $14.42 per hour. It would bring them to $14.42 per hour.
So it'll bring the low end at 1442? Okay.
And you were correct, everyone else was
Which
at
is
the
not
3%.
Far from what we've got here. We worked on that, and we have to stay within, I know everyone wants their employees to have more money. And there has been a 3% increase every year for, I can't remember when. I know one time years ago, there was a 5% increase, and one time years ago, the county officials didn't get an increase, but everybody else did.
What are you looking at me for?
It's just a joke that Commissioner Wiley and I have. And hopefully that Wilson County will be able to do that forever, with the 3.5% revenue increase that we're limited to. If we did what everybody would want to do for everybody's salary, we would not be able to meet it. That's my consensus. Anybody else have any comments?
No, I mean, except for the top couple of them, we're pretty close with the proposed raises and the salary changes, I think, for more than half of them, so.
Within reason.
Anybody have any recommendations or anything?
It's hard to do it for one department as deserving as they may be and not do it for other departments.
Okay, moving right along. Next one, Audrey Lewis.
Good evening. I don't know if I can follow up, Eva. That's 38. How long have you been clerk?
Since '88.
30-plus years.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm not fast on that, but like that was as good as many lawyers that we see at the courtroom, so you did a great job. So I'm glad you mentioned the 3%, because that is, my proposed budget is a 3% increase for my staff year, when all of Wilson County did get a 3% budget increase, my staff did not get a budget increase. They got no salary increases last year. So, we did not have an increase at all. What I did do was cut y'all's pro rata by $35,000 because it was COVID and Judge Jackson came to me and said it was going to be a tight year. And so the way that I was able to do that is to use discretionary funds, much like what you guys are doing right now, to be able to cut your pro rata by $35,000 while I wasn't able to give an increase in salary to my folks, but my budget manager and I went line by line and decreased and trimmed every ounce of fat off of my budget because we have a canine officer, which many of you probably know about. He works in the county here, he works in all 5 counties, but he works for all the schools to go around inspecting. And he was on a grant and we needed him to be put into the regular budget last year. So knowing I had to increase the budget with that, we decreased the rest of our budget. We did not ask for any kind of 3% cost of living increase for any of my folks last year. So this year, my budget is 3% for the staff, the same as what you're doing for all the other employees. And then also including the vehicle insurance, which should have been a regular budget item all along. So,
Okay, because I know we had several different numbers that we hit at. What have you got budgeted for the district attorney now? And I've got it here somewhere too.
and I don't have y'all's, no one provided me a copy of what your proposed budget is for my budget.
Okay, so it's, I don't know, did Algescosa send you the pro rata, a copy of it?
I
'Cause
have
that,
the pro rata, yes.
okay, so that 555 is what they
Is
are,
that the only thing you're given?
that, well, yes, this is the only, well, that along with
The
their,
actual budget for you, yes.
yeah, so I've got the actual budget that you sent me, yes. So what we did is we budgeted, $536,177.98, which was the 3.5% above the 515 from last year. We actually paid $484,000 plus some last year. There was a change after our budget had been adopted, but Atascosa agreed for us to pay only what we had budgeted for, which was $484. So this year, instead of budgeting the 3.5 on top of the 484, I budgeted off of the 515, because that's what it should have been had we got it prior to October. So, I budgeted 3.5% based on what Judge Jackson asked me to put in here. I do want to tell you that what she's stating is correct. The difference that you're going to see, and I think, and correct me, Audrey, if I'm wrong, I think where we're finding some confusion or some differences is that last year, she brought in $150,000 from her fund balance to help offset her budget last year, and that money is not included in this year's revenue. So it kind of, when talking to Tracy, who's the auditor in Atascosa, that's kind of where we're short, there's a shortfall there. We are only talking about a $19,000 difference, $19,323.91. I did talk to Judge Jackson today and asked if we would be willing, because her budget falls in the district court budget, which is on page 6 of your proposed budget, the county and district court budget. If you'll see, there's a line item there for professional services. It's line item 4509, where we budget $50,000. That's a year-to-year budget line item. At one point, prior to me coming here, there was expenses that hit that. I've kept it in there for expenses that may come up. I recommended to the judge that we reduce that line item because we haven't spent that money, and I don't foresee us having to spend $50,000 in order to meet our pro rata share of the district attorney's budget.
And that share would be the 534 or the 555?
The 555.
Okay.
That she's
And
requested.
And for the new commissioners, I don't know if you've been through this before, but so the pro rata is based on population of Alpine County. So it gets divided, everybody pays their fair share is basically how it
is correct. And the
Okay, but
population
the
has
pro
not been
rata,
updated since
what
then.
I'm confused about, I guess, is from, okay, we added what we would have had last year. What you want, all we funded y'all with last year was 484,000. Okay, and that's what was in our budget. That's what we asked for the taxpayers to give us, to fund the district attorney with. So when we go to the revenue increase and ask her for 3.5% more above that, which is 501,000. But Brenda and I talked and said, okay, let's go to what it would have been if we'd have funded the other part last year, which would have made it 534.
534.
534. If the 3.5% added to what it would have been last year would have made it, which was a 501, would have been 534. That's where I'm coming from.
Right, I see what you're saying, but it's.
But then that's what I'm wondering how,
What you're doing is
did ours,
You're shooting me in the foot for reducing what you ended up paying last year. Because I'm not asking for anything other than what all of the other agencies are getting. And so, because you're not going off of the budget, you were going off of a pro rata number.
that's what we have, not the pro rata, we're going off of the revenue increase from last year.
Right.
What the
So-
revenue,
so I
or
guess
what was
where's
considered
that-
revenue last year.
Where's that additional funds, I guess, then from 2021 budget? That was less than 35,000 less than the year before. You see what I'm saying?
Okay,
So-
but what we did, we added that to bring it up there, and then we added, which brought it to the 501, and then we added the 3.5 to that, which made it the 534.
Right, but you're operating off of the pro rata versus if you look at my actual budget, it's only a 3.8% increase, and that actually, it's like, it makes it a 3% difference because of that vehicle insurance.
Okay, and
Otherwise,
what,
my budget has not gone up significantly. You're basing it off of your pro rata, which that was taken out of my discretionary funds last year to offset for COVID for the county, to the benefit of the county. Whereas the other departments did not do that. So that should have been budgeted.
okay, but that revenue item, which it was considered a it was put into your budget as an item, revenue item. It's not there this year.
Of course.
Okay, and
That's not
what my point is how have to abide by what the legislature told us, at 3.5% above that, okay? And when we use whatever's in our budget, okay, and then we have a few other avenues of revenue,
I understand that.
okay, we're allowed 3.5%, and that's more than 3.5%, is just what I'm getting at.
Right. It just should have been calculated at the actual, before the revenue that we added in, that I added in.
The
Okay.
150 from last year? I don't know how the 150, because she brought it in from her fund balance.
Yes,
If
and
that's included-
that's not revenue. We can't use it just because believe me, I talked to Brenda a long time ago about, okay, say if we take $1 million out of our fund balance and you put it in as revenue, will they count that as revenue next year to where we can add that for the 3.5%? And the answer was no. We can't do that. And that's how we have to, that's 150,000 that you took out of that. It's not considered as revenue. We have to work off the other numbers. But that's just what I'm,
I understand. What I'm asking is, my staff was not given a raise last year. I'm asking for the same raise for everyone this year. And I'm asking that you guys pay your fair share, what all 5 counties are intended to pay.
okay.
I
And
understand
okay, and here's the deal. I mean, I didn't ask for the 3.5%. If they left it at 8%, we wouldn't be having this conversation right now. But we're trying to stay where we are, and that's the reason we're having this meeting tonight.
Brenda's come up with a
and-
great alternative plan of using that unallocated, which typically not tapped
Okay.
into.
Well, that's what I was just going to ask you. Does that work for you? I mean, it takes the 50 down to roughly 30.
Well,
And
and
you
I
only
do,
used 10 last year, so.
I do want to,
It brings y'all up to the correct pro rata amount, is what Brenda's saying, I believe, right?
yes,
Okay,
but I do want to add-
did our pro rata change? I mean, it goes by, because we're about 30, a little bit less than Atascosa County, and that, we're about a third, they're about a third, and we're just a little less than that, or?
Right, I thought it might with the 2020 census, it didn't really change.
No, we're at 33.86% of overall. And so something to keep in mind also that our district attorney's pro rata portion of our budget is short by the 19,000 and some change. The district judges are not here, so I'll speak on their behalf. And Judge Jackson and I have had lots of conversations over the last couple of weeks. They currently have a part-time employee as a court coordinator. They are requesting to transition that part-time employee to a full-time employee, which also then increases our pro rata share for the district court coordinator portion of this pro rata. Atascosa has agreed to it, so it's up to Wilson County's Commissioners Court on whether or not we want to do that. Now, I would say that if you are going to do that in order to, again, avoid a rollback election or voter approval election, we chip off of other line items in the district court budget. So that $50,000 then gets reduced, and I believe the difference was a little over 11,000. So we're looking at 19.3 for district attorney and about 11.5 increase for the court coordinator budget.
And that'll bring it to the 55,
The 555.
555, excuse me.
I'm probably going to kick myself in the butt for this, but we have not spent but $8,700 out of that professional line item service, and that was for the regional defender invoice. I don't anticipate that we have any other expenses
Okay,
between
now,
now and then.
and that's the line item, the expenses that, say, the capital murder trial.
Which we don't,
That's-
we won't have one of those.
Hopefully, we
next
won't
year.
have any
Well,
more.
not for the next year, I can promise you that.
Okay.
So
Yeah, so
we don't have one in the pipe.
I think it's, I can't speak for district court, I can't speak for Audrey on what that line item would be used for. So if the district department is comfortable reducing that line item in order for us to meet the pro rata share that they are requesting, then I'm okay with that, recommending that to the court. That would be up to y'all.
Okay, let me ask you another question that has nothing to do with your, on that line item you're talking about, was it larger last year?
No, sir, it was
It was 50,000?
Yes, sir.
Because I know that's what it was intended for. Tom started that
Yeah.
line item
I believe
when
in-
we had the
In 2018,
capital-
yeah, that's what it was. There was $80,000 expense
capital murder
in
trial
2018.
and pay expenses out of that.
Yeah.
It also, that pays for the public defender,
Correct.
and then it pays expenses for the trial.
Yeah, so in 18, there was $80,000 expense. So then in 19, he budgeted 50. I budgeted 50 last year. I kept it 50 this year. I'm requesting 50 for the new year, so. It's just another option.
Okay?
I also just wanted to provide you guys with, I always try to give Commissioners Court an idea of what goes on in the courthouse. So they're real simple statistics. I just do number of indictments. I don't go as far as pending cases and all of those type of things. But it's just number of indictments, and then the bottom is number of trials. And we're actually in the middle of the trial right now. So it'll be 4 trials for this year. So my hope and prayer is that COVID doesn't shut us back down, and we still get to do that. So last year, if you look at our 2020, of course, we only had a couple, but that's because we only had, in March, we got shut down, so. But just to give you an idea of what we're doing and what we're working with, and certainly Jim's office, works hand in hand with ours. It's hard for me to, I think, in my opinion, government is supposed to protect above everything else, so as far as law enforcement, and district attorney's office, I think that's our number one priority, should be to protect the community.
Y'all have any comments or questions? Suggestions?
Can I get some direction from the court on what y'all would like? We'll get that afterwards. It's just been,
Well, I
we've been
mean,
going back and forth with
I think
district
it's the same
courts.
thing, I guess. we've got to propose something that's within,
I don't know.
keeps us within the
Probably the sheriff's office.
3.5%, and then just have to see what
Well,
that,
by moving it from the line item, that's the only way to prevent it.
So making that, those line item adjustments is correct. It still, it doesn't change anything to the 3.5, it just allows you to move it to where.
right.
That is correct. Overall.
Yes.
And then that should reset us since, last year I was trying to do a good thing by
And so
cutting it down, so, but now it should be reset to
next year, we're working off 55
Right.
as our pro rata share.
exactly.
Okay.
So it'll be where it should be.
Yeah, I think that's a reasonable
I
solution.
just want to make a comment. Every elected official, every department in the county, we were fortunate, every one of them stayed within the 3.5% on their budget when Brenda asked them to submit anything.
And we all don't have enough money to do what we need to do.
Well, and my proposal, other than adding the car insurance, which in my opinion should have always been there, but is, we would be at 3.3% other than having a car insurance.
And who was paying the car insurance before?
Atascosa County covered it for us, and then it was taken out of my chapter 59.
Oh. I noticed there
We
was
can
one
solve
other
it,
thing.
fine. I just, anything that would take us to a rollback, I'm not in favor of.
And Audrey, there was just one other thing
She's got a,
on the.
she's taking it from another line item. It's in the district courts.
Correct. On the membership and dues, there was $4,000 that's in your budget for this year, but not last year. What
Yes.
was that for?
So, well, last year that line item didn't exist. So, actually, and if you look, I don't know if y'all have the actual copy of line item budget or not. But if you look, actually, it's not an additional expense. It's actually taken from miscellaneous, which is item 625. Before we had that at $10,000.
Oh,
And
okay.
that's where the membership and bar dues were coming out of. And I
Okay.
wanted, my budget
You just
manager
separated it.
to separate that out.
Okay.
So it's clear that those are bar dues that we pay for all the lawyers. Those are, membership dues to Texas District County Attorney Association. So there is no difference.
Oh, okay, okay.
I mean, and if you really want to get nitpicky, to tell you how much of a fat trimmer I am, we had a paralegal that left us, and she was making $39,000 a year. And the auditor over at Atascosa is like, well, you definitely want to leave that at that, right? And I said, no, our new person's making 33, so put it down to
Yeah, I
33
know.
where
I noticed
they're
that
making what
too.
they're making. So, I try to trim as much of it and be as conservative with it as I possibly can. Obviously, we can't control fringe a whole lot. What we have to pay in retirement, Social Security is kind of outside of our control, and health insurance, unfortunately, which is always a crazy expense.
Are y'all covered by Atascosa's insurance?
Yes.
Yeah, so
So
there is
kind of that
huge disparity between what Atascosa County pays in health coverage versus Wilson County. They are with TAC, where we pay $8,700 per employee, Atascosa pays $12,300 per employee. It is a huge difference. They are at the top tier, they have a $500 deductible, but they also have more revenue going in. So if Judge Hurley thinks they can afford that, I guess they can, but that is,
Until this last year, they were self-insured.
Yes, which seemed to, I guess it wasn't working as well as it seemed to.
It's, from what I talk with Judge Hurley regularly, and it was expensive being self-insured for them.
this is the copy, here. I didn't make that a copy, but that's her, the line items for each individual. So, yeah, I did talk to the auditor over there. She's trying to convince Judge Hurley to revisit their health coverage again, just to see if, to help kind of offset some of the expense.
They probably got caught like we did when we first went with TAC,
Oh, I'm sure.
except our deductible was a little bit higher.
Yeah.
So it helped us on our rates there. And this year, we've had to readjust our deductible and our coverage to get it to where it's affordable.
It's a shame that.
Any more suggestions?
You need to get
Recommendations?
the Judges first, to see if that's gonna affect their budget.
If what's going to affect the
They
budget.
get money from that line item.
They don't even know that that's in their budget. Because they don't, we control the invoices for our portion of the budget, basically. So for them to be able to sit there and tell me, well, no, I'm not going to have a professional invoice, honestly, if I get an invoice from Judge Ellison or Judge Wilson, I have to pay it. And I give it to Judge Jackson to review, but at the end of the day, they sign off on it. I have to find the money somewhere. And that's why we budget for things like that. So they don't, if I were to call them and ask them, I mean, I can do that.
It shows out of that line item, there was $9,900. I thought it was 87.
On what, I'm sorry?
On what?
What are you talking about?
On the, you said that 50,000?
No, she said the 8,700 was the invoice for
Okay.
the,
Was for their public defender?
Yes.
right, so
Yeah.
there's
some other stuff
$700 or
in there.
$800.
Oh, there's some other stuff in there?
Yeah.
Okay.
8,700 of it was for the invoice, though.
Y'all want to,
So are y'all okay with me moving that, adjusting the line items then in order to meet the pro rata share, or do we go back to the drawing board?
No, I think that works, because it keeps us within the 3.5%, and
put it in there.
If it's adjusted, it doesn't change the bottom line.
No.
Don't send us any professional services invoices.
I'll try hard not to, I promise you. Well, I appreciate you trying to remedy that.
yes, and thank you.
Good luck.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank y'all. Appreciate y'all listening to me.
Okay, Charles Richard Fry.
So you touched on tax revenue, sales tax revenue at the beginning.
We have zero sales tax revenue.
So I'm just curious, help catch me up, because I'm just a layperson. I read in the paper where Atascosa, Gonzalez, and Barnes, that's sales tax revenue.
Yes.
So how do they get tax revenue in Wilson County?
Because in the 1990s, when they came out with the sales tax and the counties were eligible to apply for it,
Right,
guess what Wilson County didn't do?
so why can't we apply for it?
We have. There's been 2 votes since I've been county judge. Both of them failed miserably.
You're talking about those out there.
And it's not a county, it's not a sales tax anymore, it's a county improvement district. Sir?
Not within the board, but within the voters of the
Yes.
Yeah, there's actually an
Yes.
item on the
We
election.
had, it's only been on the ballot twice, and it's not a sales tax anymore because all of the cities have sucked up all the sales tax.
Yeah.
All 2 cents of it.
That's why I just can't get.
So we have what could have been a county improvement district,
Right.
and that was on the unincorporated areas of the county. And like I said, it 2 times and it failed miserably both times.
Budget issues that we're talking about here, like with the sheriff and the other departments, would probably not be that big of an issue.
What,
It would definitely be more revenue.
Be more revenue.
Yes.
Yes.
And the unincorporated areas at this point don't mean much as far as tax, but in the future, it could mean a whole lot out 181 and a whole lot out 87.
Is whenever I bought some property, it's increased the property value, it's more property tax. But from what I understand, we're not gonna get that revenue. because-
okay, we're limited to 3.5. Our tax rate is going to go down at least 6 cents, or right at the 6 cent mark. It's .4851, and it's going to .42, or this is, we're not finished yet, but this is pretty accurate. What is it, 4.42?
228.
So will it be
Point-
on the
4238,
ballot in
so-
the future so that
What's that?
Wilson County can get tax revenue? Will it be on the ballot in the future?
Sales tax revenue?
If we could get somebody to, we can't promote it.
Well, that's the problem, is that, and, I'm sorry, Judge.
Go ahead.
But just kicking in, the problem is that as a citizen, if I wasn't involved in this, my first thought would be, because I'm in an unincorporated area, I don't want to pay any more tax. But the fact of the matter is that you don't necessarily pay more tax. Someone pointed out to me the other day is whenever you make an Amazon purchase, they're already taking out the maximum tax. That just goes to them or someplace because it's not being used. And it's not that you're gonna go to your grocery store or go to Floresville, Livonia, Stockdale, or Polk and make a purchase and pay more tax. You won't. It's new development that's coming along. It's that convenience center that isn't even on the plans is gonna be here in 5 years or 10 years that can make a significant difference.
So just let me finish up by saying, I know everybody's doing a lot with less, but I want to say a special thanks to Commissioner Wiley, Commissioner Martin, because I work with them.
Thank you.
They're doing the best they can with what they've got, and I'm sure everybody else is too. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, that is all of the public comments. Does any commissioner have anything that they'd like to add to the budget hearing?
I got a couple of questions. From what I understand, Mr. Vino, when she worked through the budget on the cell phones, that she's reallocated, and I know there's some disparity between how the different commissioners handle cell phones with their staff, and so I want to make sure that everybody knows what they did, or what she did, because we have some staff that have phones that we reimburse and some that don't. And I think we should be consistent across the board in how that's done. So I'd just like for her to explain that, and then I may have a follow-on with that.
Yeah, so as Commissioner Martin stated previously, it was all over the place. Some employees receive $600 a year as a cell phone reimbursement stipend, whatever you want to call it. Some receive $900 a year, some receive $1,200 a year, some even receive $2,400 a year. I was not here when those amounts were set, so I have no information on how those numbers even came about. At the beginning of the year, if you remember, Sheriff Stewart came to the court and you approved for the Sheriff's Department to go to FirstNet, and we took away the cell phone allowances for all of the sheriff employees and switched them to AT&T FirstNet smart phones because of the archiving. What I did is I did the research to compare how much we're paying for that, and it averages about $75 a person, which equates to $900 a year. So to be consistent, I said, okay, we're going to be consistent, and everyone who is not on the archiving through SMARSH and FirstNet, I'm going to make it consistent, $900 across the board for everyone who gets a cell phone allowance now. I did that thinking from a numbers standpoint. After the fact, Commissioner File came in and talked to me, and we were just having a good conversation about it. He was asking why I did what I did. But I didn't take into account, again, because I wasn't here when that was established, that perhaps the reason there was a disparity was based on the amount of usage. So it wasn't necessarily a reimbursement for a cell phone bill that everybody pays every month, but really allocated for the amount of time that a person is using their phone. So as an example, what Commissioner File mentioned to me was he uses his phone more often, 7 days a week or whatever, than maybe his road and bridge hand that gets a cell phone allowance. And so he thought maybe there needed to be some discussion on whether or not it should be consistent, and we look at it from how much time is actually being spent on the phone versus what we're spending on allowances. And then Commissioner Martin came to me and had some discussion as well on being consistent and who should get an allowance anyway and who shouldn't, and that's where we're at today. So I have left the $900 consistent across the board to those, changed it, and that's how it stands now.
And what are we suggesting?
Well, I mean, I know at least for the road and bridge hands, in my opinion, you know, except for maybe the foreman's, most of those guys, we don't call them much during the day, or maybe their foreman does a little bit, what have you. I mean, looking at, anybody can get a cell phone relatively inexpensively for $50 a month. I don't feel like we should be paying their entire cell phone bill because we don't talk to them on the phone that much. So, I mean, my proposal is for, at least for those folks, like $25 a month is probably, that would be maybe about half of it, and that's probably, I think, being extremely generous.
I've always just had my foreman set a phone. I'm not sure in general that it's kind of nice. Initially, I would think when we did this, most plans had an overage.
Correct.
And so you make X number of calls and you're in trouble. I don't think that's the case anymore in general.
Yeah, it's
And so the fact of the matter is I suggested at one point that, you know, they're used to that as an income, is that you give them a one-time bonus of sorts, if that's it. 1 year, you're gonna get it, and then shut it off. We wouldn't lose a single cell phone. I mean, everybody would still be carrying their phone.
Well, and I guess part of it is the requirement and expectation is that there's something that happens after hours, that
Well,
somebody's going to answer.
for the commissioner and for the foreman, if I have an after-hours problem, I'm gonna get the call, I'm either gonna take care of it, or I'm gonna call my foreman.
Yep.
Now, he may make a call to somebody else, but he may not.
Yeah, because I mean, it depends on what it is. I know like during the winter storm and stuff, we had, you know, trees to cut up. One guy can't do that by himself.
Yep.
So, you know, you need at least two people for safety.
But none of my folks, since I've been in.
I've only got 2 people that have phones.
Yeah, I've got one.
I got almost all of them.
You've got one employee?
Me? No, all of my full-time do.
My full-time people.
I don't have any part-time people, but I only have
I'm
one.
not in favor of raising it.
Okay,
No, but I'm
About-
suggesting we decrease it more for that, because I guess everybody else that has a phone is either an elected official or in a department head or something like that.
Doesn't affect me at all, because my foreman has one, I have one, again, so.
Well, I mean, but how much are you willing to pay for that phone, I guess is my question.
They're currently at $600 a year. I budgeted to be
Oh, 600,
consistent.
oh, excuse me. go
A
ahead.
year, yeah,
So that's $50 a month.
right. So I budgeted $900 to be consistent from a financial standpoint for everyone. What Commissioner Martin is recommending is that we reduce the $900 in the road and bridge departments to $25 per month. That's what you're saying?
That's my proposal,
Which would be
yeah.
$300 a year.
okay. What was his foreman, John Lynn? What's his phone
$50 a
allowance?
month.
600?
600, all of them.
Yes.
They're currently all at 600, the road and bridge, the road and bridge hands who currently get
All
a cell phone,
foremans?
they're all at 600.
Okay. And then you want to make the rest of them, that are road and bridge guys, $300 a year?
Well, I'm open to suggestions. I mean, I don't know, Jalen, did you have any comment or suggestion as far as that goes? I hate to put you on the spot, but I know we've talked about this off and on for the last 6 months.
Basically, if you're going off of usage, I guess the question would be, how much do they actually use it? If that's what you're basing it off of, then going down to 25 per month would be sufficient, but, I mean, that's gonna be.
25 a month too low.
Let's go with this, 25 for the road hands, or excuse me, let's do $300 a year for the road hands, $600 a year for the foremans, and everybody else $900 a year, which would be the same thing as what the sheriff's office is doing.
Works for me.
Is that good? Y'all want to put it in the budget like that?
That gives us a few bucks to play with some of this other stuff, not a whole lot, but.
What are we looking at?
I couldn't tell you. I'd have to do the math, but basically it would not affect our overall budget. It would just take those numbers down in the salaries portion, because that's where it's rolled up into. And then I would, whatever's left over, I'd throw it back into the contingency for your sheriff to spend.
So y'all agree to put it in the budget like that?
So we're gonna take the road hands to
$300 a month?
a year.
A year.
A year.
Excuse me, a year. Oh, wow.
And the foreman,
Foreman's is 600 a year,
Which is where they are now.
where they are now, and then everybody else that the county gives an allowance to, $900 a year.
Yes, and
I make one suggestion, or maybe two. I know John uses his 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and that's the one that's $2,400, is that correct?
that is correct.
And he uses it for a lot of different things. Should we consider him and Leighton different?
I don't know, because I think there's other people that use their phone. I don't think John's on
But
the phone.
John uses this with his, I say, with his job. He does a lot with it.
it may be more cost-effective for the county to provide them a phone than to pay that stipend.
Well, we can look at that.
Hurt my feelings if you'll take mine down.
Before you answer that question, I just want to get clarity back on the 300 for the road and bridge hands. That is only being allocated to the ones who are currently getting the stipend, right? Not all, because not all of them are. Okay. Okay, so now back to John.
Okay, do we drop John's to $900 a year?
I don't know what his bill is normally.
But I don't think we're talking about bills, though, because you're making the recommendation based now on how much time is being spent on the phone.
That's why I'm not in favor of cutting employees. Because I call them all the time. They're on call.
Yeah, and I think it's reasonable to pay a small percentage of their phone bill so that we can get a hold of them. But I mean, back to Brenda's question, and her point is I don't know what's appropriate for John, to be honest with you. But I would say that I would say before we spend more than what the stipend is, I would need to know and understand there's a good reason behind paying him more than what the stipend is. And what everybody else, because we can just, I mean, you compare it to the deputies, they're on call 24/7, investigators, chief deputy, patrol lieutenant, all that.
I don't know, I can say I have tried to, this was before you were sheriff. Many times when I was a justice of the peace, at 8 o'clock in the morning, I'd be on the phone trying to get a hold of a deputy, and 90% of the time, I did not. So I don't want to, I'm sure things are different now, but not all people answer their phones. And here's another thing, we're talking about everybody, cell phones are handy, everybody's got one. Okay, back when it was the old days, when it was the landlines, nobody said a word about answering the landline and not wanting any money for their landline. So,
Well, for the last 15 years, if I've needed somebody in the middle of the night to deal with something, I've just called them. And with the exception of my foreman, I haven't paid them anything, right or wrong. I mean, I understand if they've been getting it, changing it is a difficult thing, but from my standpoint, if we didn't pay anything, they'd still have that cell phone.
Sure.
Everybody's got one.
Right, and it's only fair to compensate for their time or usage. The other thing, though, too, that I think all elected officials and department heads who have a cell phone, we all answer our phone, and I'm not the only person here who has it, so there's other officials and department heads here who will answer their phone, I would assume. 24/7 if needed as, I mean, I can speak for Jalen, because she will call me after she gets the call to say, this just happened, this is what we need to do. Just as much as, you know, as we call John in the middle on a Sunday to say, John, I'm trying to do this and I can't do it, what do I need to do? So I don't know that you can really compare how much time one person uses versus another, because we all do different jobs, but just as important. So if we're gonna give the allowance, the stipend, then that's incumbent upon us to be able to be available when you.
What is your
when you call.
suggestion?
I would recommend we either, for all others that you mentioned, that we either keep it at 900 or change it to 900 or keep it at the 1,200 that it currently is. That's what we're getting now.
For everybody?
That's the 1,200 for everybody other than the road and bridge and foreman that you were referring to.
Elected officials.
The elected officials and, because that's what we're all getting now with the exception of John.
But the reality is, if we all went with the FirstNet phones, then it
It
would
would
only.
be
It
$75.
costs us $900 a month.
Correct.
900 a
I-
year.
That's
I'd
why I
suggest
initially,
$900.
that's why I initially said, let's do the
If you-
900, because it's, if you're comparing,
If you want your phone furnished for you,
You
get
get-
one of the,
right? So I'm okay, I would recommend just leaving everybody else at $900,
and then leaving road and bridge at,
at the 300 and the 600 per commissioner's request.
good with me.
Suits me.
Paul, what,
I don't like cutting it.
you don't want to cut it.
The road and bridge hands.
You don't want to do the 300, you want 600
Yes.
across the board. Because you call your road and bridge hands more, the same amount of time that you call your foreman, is what you're saying?
Yes. If they're on call. I don't call my foreman, I call the guys that are on call.
Oh. Do you all have on-call schedules?
Well, no, if I have a need, I will call my foreman. If he doesn't answer, then I'll start on my list of who I think is closest to wherever the incident is, and I will call them. That's not in every,
Okay.
well, I'm talking about at night. During the day, it will depend. I'll check with my foreman. If I'm not in the middle of something, I did that today, you know, what's going on? But then I'll call whoever I think is in charge at this particular area.
$25 a month's pretty low.
It is low.
But I mean, you can get a phone for $50 a month.
That's what that $600 is.
Yeah, but why are we paying for
They
their?
would have a phone whether they
I understand.
get a
Right.
stipend or not.
So why are we paying their whole entire cell phone bill just because we call them sometime? That's my deal.
It's pretty hard getting one $50 a month.
Well, mine are
Like I said,
already.
they're
over.
gonna have one whether we have it or not, because I'm gonna go out on a limb, and say every road and bridge man that we've got working for the county has a phone.
Yep.
And only some of them are being compensated.
A couple of them are flip phones, but they're phones.
Yeah, I bet they're more than $50 a month.
Might be. But I mean, we're not here to pay people's cell phone bills. We just need to be able to compensate them for use of that phone to conduct county business, which for those folks is relatively infrequent.
Here's a way to
After
look at
business
it.
hours.
How much do they use that phone percentage for personal business and for county business?
Some of them use it a lot. They call, we got a flat.
Okay, I mean,
I mean,
okay, and how many,
Parts.
on the weekends, do they use it for county business?
no. not
At
necessarily.
nights, do they use it for county business?
Unless I call.
That's just a, you know, that's the thing we're
I mean,
debating on right now was whether to pay them $300 or $600 a year.
Those other than your foreman.
Yes.
Every one of you have a foreman, right? So what you're recommending, with the exception of Commissioner File, is that the foreman gets compensated a little bit more because your calls to your foreman are more frequent than would be to everyone else.
Chain of command.
Chain of command, which comes with higher level
Responsibility.
positions.
cut it. You just probably aren't gonna get a hold of those people anymore. They're not gonna answer their phones.
But is that line item, is that a line item in our budget?
It's in salaries,
It's,
so we have to go back and change it all.
so in other words, his cell phone allowance, whatever he pays is in his line item for salaries for the road and bridge people? In our individual road and bridge budget, or is it in another line item? That's what I'm asking.
Road and Bridge.
It's in Road and Bridge, yeah. Yeah, it's in your own departments.
We'll get a little better dog and pony show next year.
I mean, ultimately, going back to Commissioner Tordola's comment, if they stop answering their phone, we could always just stop the cell
Pony
phone
and a monkey
allowance.
would be.
I mean, that, right? Yeah, it's a benefit that's awarded by the courts, so it's not.
I guess I'm the only one that only had myself and one other person.
Commissioner Perdola?
I got myself and my foreman and one other
So
person,
you got two people, yeah.
2 people.
And I guess that was just, again, there's not consistency there, so I'm assuming it was based
That's,
on the commissioner.
let's have some consistency, okay? Because do your other guys that don't have phone allowances, do they answer their phone if you call them?
Every time. Well, almost every time, let's put it that way. If they miss me, it's because they're operating something that makes too much noise. But
Again,
I've never
I
had
wasn't
one
sure
say
if-
no.
I don't know how it was decided who got one and who didn't. Was that, each commissioner made that call, I'm assuming?
When I came on board, I think 2 already had 4 commissioner file. I think everyone had it. There were a couple over there. I don't know what 3 did. I had 1. And that's pretty much how it's been. I didn't see the
I
point.
kind of agree with what the judge is saying then, and correct me if I'm wrong, are you recommending then to be consistent, if we're gonna pay 1 or 2 of them, it should be all or none? And stick with the 300, 600. 600 for your foreman, 300 for everyone else.
Okay, there's no other, Eva's office, nobody in your office gets compensated. Dawn's office, nobody in your office. Nikki, nobody in your office. So why don't we drop it to the commissioners and their foremans?
I don't think there was any office that has anybody but the department head, with the exception of, I believe, 2 offices. Judge, I think you're one of them, and I believe EMA, Cindy Stafford, and Cindy Stafford gets one because of the position that she holds.
Well, any suggestions? I made one. Anybody have
I
anything?
mean, I've got no problem with letting each commissioner decide who gets a phone.
It comes out of his budget.
I would prefer the consistency, but, because I think it makes sense.
Do you open it up, though, then to let every other official to decide that in their department?
Well, I think it's a little bit different from the standpoint of, we get calls at night that somebody has to go to work. Nobody's gonna call them at 10 o'clock at night and say, hey, I wanna come in and pay my tax bill, so she's gonna call somebody and go down there and answer the phone. I'm sure. I mean, I'm not trying to belittle what you do, Dawn, but I mean, John's different. I mean, if one of us needs to work late and we have a problem, we call John or Leighton, and they respond.
Like we said before, even if we do or don't compensate somebody for a cell phone, they're not gonna take it home and throw it in the trash. They're gonna still have it.
We're all at opposite ends. I've never done it, don't see the need for it. You have a couple, and you have everyone.
If you want to be consistent, then we need to pay all the road and bridge hands the same salary. He pays them different than what I do. He pays his different than what I do, or he does. They're not across the board on the salary.
And what does that got to do with the phone?
You're saying consistency.
I won't disagree with what you're saying.
A lot of that has to do with seniority.
Yeah.
Yes.
Not
Longevity.
necessarily. Look at what some of your new guys make compared to my guys. And no offense. That's why I give them a phone allowance. Look, Mr. Berdola just hired one. He pays him $2 an hour more than mine. They started at the same time. That's fine. You want to be consistent, start them all at one salary.
Well,
Some of that
we're the
depends-
ones who make the decision.
That's why I say to leave the cell phone where it's at, in my opinion.
I don't care.
Okay, we had it, no, you were the only one that disagreed with the 900, 600, and 300.
So why don't we just do away with that for the road and bridge hands and get them the FirstNet phones? And the county pays the $75 a month.
For all
If you-
road and bridge
for-
hands.
For everybody. If you're-
Pay $75 a month for the FirstNet phones, and why are we cutting them down to $25?
Yes.
Well, that's what I was gonna say, that's not gonna
Oh,
save us
that's
any
right.
money.
That's right, never mind.
Yeah, they're not gonna be able to.
That's right.
Well, as of right now, it's in the budget, correct? $900 straight across the board?
Yes.
Okay, so actually, we're arguing over saving some money in the budget, rather what she's got budgeted.
Right, because Commissioner Martin wants to lower that and allocate the funds.
Well, no, I'm just,
Somewhere,
I mean,
yeah.
part of it was to try to get to the consistency, and part of it was what was reasonable for what they use their phone for county business for.
Sometimes it's more, sometimes it's less.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to do the 900, 600, and 300, that's fine, and let each commissioner tell you what they want to pay and still save us a few dollars.
So what's your suggestion now?
Well, leave the 9, 6, and 3, as we discussed, and then we can delegate individually who we're going to give the 600 or the 300 to.
But I thought you were stating that or recommending that the 600 is for the foreman. You only,
Right.
each of you only have one foreman, so.
Right, but if you want to give the 300 to any other employee that's
Oh.
in there,
Right, but that still doesn't suffice, I think, what Commissioner Farmer's argument is. Okay, I just want to make sure I was.
Do you agree with that?
Well, not necessarily. I'm not going to do anything any different.
Okay.
he's not
But you don't
changing.
think, but
And-
you're not
you
gonna
know,
give the 300 to somebody. But would you agree to make it like that for the other commissioners?
Well, it'd be fine, you know, if my guys realize that everybody else gets an allowance, they'll want an allowance.
Well, that's part of the deal. I mean,
I personally don't think it's necessary, but that's just me. Now, if I were paying all my guys, I understand where you are, don't get me wrong. I would be taking a different approach probably. But I'm not, and I never have, and I personally don't see the need.
well, see, and from his perspective, their quote, cell phone allowance is in their salary rather than a cell phone allowance.
They're gonna have it you know, when I hire them, they've got a cell phone. If I didn't hire them, they have a cell phone. If I fire them, they have a cell phone. You know, they've got a cell phone.
Bingo.
So I don't know why I need to provide money for them for that.
It only would affect one person in my deal. so-
Yeah. But it's,
Well, my suggestion was to set the rates at the 9, 6, and the 3, and then let them, and if he wants to pay all of his guys $600 a month, then like you said, it comes out of his budget, and
No, that
a
would not
salary
work
budget.
like that, because it's part of the salary budget. So you have to decide.
Okay,
If it's-
here it is. We got 3, I believe, that agree that we could do 9, 6, and 3. And Paul's against it. Let's put it in the budget, and we'll see what happens when it comes time to vote on the budget. It's not gonna make,
Foreman,
Oh.
600, road and bridge, 300, and all others, 900.
yeah, the 900 stays the same.
Okay.
okay. Any other comments from any of the commissioners?
I hope not.
Okay, if not, we're gonna move right along to the next budget item,
You got a pillow I could borrow?
which is agenda item 2B, discuss and propose a tax rate by a record vote.
Okay, that's me. Good news.
And this has to be,
Okay. All right, so you want me to read the notice?
yes,
Okay.
please.
A tax rate of .4228 cents per $100 valuation has been proposed by this governing body of Wilson County. The proposed tax rate is .4228 per $100. The no new revenue tax rate is .4280 per $100. And the voter approval rate is .4497 per $100. The no new revenue tax rate is the tax rate for the 2021 tax year that will raise the same amount of property tax revenue for Wilson County from the same properties in both the 2020 tax year and the 2021 tax year. The voter approval rate is the highest tax rate that Wilson County may adopt without holding an election to seek voter approval of the rate. The proposed tax rate is not greater than the no new revenue tax rate. This means that Wilson County is not proposing to increase property taxes for the 2021 tax year. The proposed tax rate is also not greater than the voter approval tax rate, and as a result, Wilson County is not required to hold an election to seek voter approval of the rate.
And what were the, oh,
I'm sorry?
keep going.
What were you going to ask?
The rates again?
So I'm going to read what our current rate is versus what the proposed rate is. Current rate, tax rate is .4851. I'm proposing a tax rate of .4228, which is a decrease of .0623 cents for every $100. The average homestead taxable value in 2020 was $200,071. In 2021, it's $218,776.
You read those two numbers again, please.
Yes, sir. 2020 homestead taxable value average is $200,071. 2021, $218,776. For an increase of $18,705 or 9.35%. The tax on that average homestead in 2020 was $971. 2021 proposed is $925 for a decrease of $46. So the total tax levy on all properties for 2020 was $15,364,886. 2021, $15,899,629, and that's your increase of the 3.48% or $534,007. That is the proposed tax rate. And then, so I leave it with the judge to call for.
Okay, I need a motion to accept the proposed tax rate.
I'll make a motion to accept the proposed tax rate.
I'll second it.
Commissioner Martin, second by Commissioner Perdola. Okay.
Oh, Wiley.
Oh, Wiley? I'm sorry, I thought it was
Either way.
Mr. Perdola. Motion by Commissioner Martin, second by Commissioner Wiley. Okay. Okay, this is going to be, we're going to, Commissioner Precinct 1, Martin, how do you vote?
Yes.
Commissioner Precinct 2, File, how do you vote?
Yes.
Commissioner Precinct 3, Perdola, how do you vote?
Yes.
And Commissioner Precinct 4, Wiley, how do you vote?
Yes.
And the county judge votes yes, so let me fill all this out, or I'll fill it out in a minute.
Yep, it's just the highlighted areas, Judge.
Yes. Okay, do they want the names, or they just want the numbers?
It can be the names.
No, what's
Do you want me
that?
to write in the names? It's the names.
Okay,
I can
there
do
you
that.
go. There's no place to sign it, is there?
No, it's just, we have to publish this in the newspaper once we set the date for the tax rate hearing, which, that's item C, Judge. so-
After tonight, do you figure anything be changed?
I don't anticipate it.
Okay.
And we're saying no.
Okay,
The only way that it even remotely possible is if the appraisal district comes back at us by September 1st and says, here's all the new numbers, but.
okay,
we have
they
that
shouldn't, because on
5%.
August the 11th, they sent us our certified,
And we haven't gotten it yet, so I
okay,
think we'll be fine.
okay. Because I know they had an extension until September 1, but since they sent it to us on August 11th, I'm assuming that that is going to be our certified numbers.
Yeah, they still have properties under protest, but they were under the 5%, so they were able to certify.
Yeah. So they gave us certified values, so I think we're good to go.
Okay,
So, are we ready to set
okay,
the
let's,
tax hearing date?
let's go right to agenda item 2C, set tax rate hearing date, which we have that as September the 13th.
September the 13th at 9 a.m. here at Commissioners Court.
At 9 a.m.?
Yes, sir.
That'll be the first thing on the agenda?
Yes, that's how we'll publish it in the paper.
Okay. I saw Kristen was here earlier, I guess she left.
She had her babies with her, so.
Don't tell me they were bored.
Starving to death is what they were, yeah.
Okay, so
Bored and hungry.
I guess she'll get that done for us.
Yes, I'll give her this in the morning, and we will get it posted in the paper, and then that will also be the date that the agenda, or the budget will be on the agenda for adoption.
Okay. Okay. So, we have nothing else on the agenda?
Judge, I need a motion for the
What's
date
that?
that you set your
Oh,
hearing,
the date.
which is September 13th.
September 13th at 9 a.m.
No, but I don't have a motion.
I'll make a motion to set the tax rate hearing on September 13th at 9 a.m.
Motion by Commissioner Martin, second by Commissioner Perdola, that the tax rate hearing date is September the 13th at 9 a.m. Is there any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, so we have it set. Now we can go back to the one we're looking for. At 7:53, we're adjourned.